Okay, so today you are going to plan the color scheme that you're going to use for your building project. So remember we talked about that when we color our building, when we shade our building, we're not going to use realistic colors because a lot of times buildings are kind of boring. So you want to think about how you can use color to kind of create a message. So there is a worksheet on the counter that looks like this. It's also posted to Google Classroom, but you guys can go ahead and grab a physical copy of it today. On this sheet, it explains from the 3 different color schemes that you can choose from. There are examples on the bulletin board under where it says drawing 1. You can choose monochromatic, which is one color and black and white. But when we're talking about using the sets of colored pencils, right, if I was doing monochromatic green, I would be able to use all 4 of these greens plus black and white to make that monochromatic piece of artwork. So you can use a range of the color instead of just one single color in your project. Analogous is 3 colors side by side on the color wheel. So if we look at a color wheel, any of the analogous colors, remember that's the one where I said it was like you're gonna have pizza and you're hungry and you're gonna pick 3. So blue, violet, blue, and blue, green. You could do yellow, green, green, and blue, green. So it's any 3 colors as you move your way around the color wheel would be an analogous color scheme. Again, I can use as many versions of the colored pencils as I can find, along with white and black. We always need white and black for shading. The next scheme that you can choose from is complementary color scheme, and complementary colors are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. So it's a color combination like red and green, or yellow, green, and red, violet, or yellow and violet. So you can kind of plan that way. The colors, the complementary color scheme will be very dramatic because these colors are as far as they can get away from the color on the color wheel, and will create a lot of color contrast. So you kind of want to think about what kind of colors you want to use, and you're going to record that here. So what you're going to do is actually write on your worksheet, and you're going to say, you decide which one of these you're going to use. So I'm going to say that I'm going to use analogous colors, and you'll fill this out for yourself. And then I'm going to actually look at a color wheel, and I'm going to plan which colors I'm actually going to use. So for instance, maybe I say I'm going to use yellow, green, green, and blue, green. So that's what I'm going to put right on here. I'm going to put yellow, green, green, and blue, green. And that will be my analogous color scheme. These color wheels are on the counter by the rest of these supplies. So after I've identified the color scheme and have picked the color scheme that I'm going to use, I can get one of these little black squares. Now on this little black square, what I'm going to do is make a design using 3-dimensional shapes. I like to give it a border, mostly just so I don't have to color all the way to the edge. And you can feel free to use the shape tracers again. But what you want to do is create a series of shapes using, as you can see, I'm just going to trace a bunch of these on here. Oops. Using a white colored pencil or a light colored pencil. So if I know I'm going to be, like I could be doing this with yellow, for instance, because I know that I'm going to be using yellow-green as my part of my color scheme, so I could certainly do that. So I'm going to fill the space. So I want there to be quite a few shapes. I also want there to be some overlapping, because sort of some of the goal here is for me to try to achieve an optical illusion. And I want there to be the effect that these shapes are floating both over and under each other. All right, so this shape, for instance, will be at the top, then this shape, then this shape. So that's kind of the effect that I'm wanting to try for. So I want to make sure that I have shapes that are on top, in between, and below other shapes. Then what I'm going to do, like if I have circles or other round objects, I'm going to shade them like the sphere or like a cone or a cylinder so that they appear bubbled up and curved. If I am doing a triangle or a square, a lot of times the easiest thing to do is to think about having them be like little pyramids. You certainly can also paint these like little bubbles, but it will work. Ooh, bad diagonal line there. So you can see I'm going to kind of plan ahead that I'm going to make these be like pyramids. And I'm lightly putting an X, and I should probably use a ruler or the edge of my tracer for some of these. So they get kind of reasonably straight. Straighten out a couple of these lines. And so now that I've kind of planned that that's how the effect is going to be, I'm going to do just a little bit of preliminary shading with the white. Now remember, I've already said, and I do have to decide what direction the light is coming from. So I'm going to say that the light is coming from the bottom of my sheet up. So what that means is that my objects are going to be a little lighter at the point where the light is. So you get to decide that in your own designs. You can see that I'm going to put some white down first. So I'm kind of imagining if this little X is the light, which of my objects are going to be lighter and which of my objects are going to be darker. So in terms of these little pyramids, it's going to be a lot like when we shade a cube, for instance. And there's not going to be, it's not going to turn the corner, right? And then these top ones, I want them to be a little brighter. So I'm going to put more light or more white on those, a little less light. And then this back side of this pyramid is going to be my fully shadowed side. So you're going to begin this process just with some white, just to help your colors pop a little bit. Remember always when we're working in colored pencils that you're going to work as light as you can to start with and then get darker as you go. And because these shapes would have flat sides, you can see that that's how I'm shading them. I'm just going to do a couple of these just so you can kind of get, you don't need to watch me finish everything. So there's my white. I'm using yellow, green, green, and blue green. So I am going to add some yellow. So this is kind of a limey yellow green. This is also a pretty bright yellow green. So I'm going to call these two colors my yellow green. I am then going to use this color, which is kind of a darker green, and this green as my green. And then my blue green, there's this really dark green that's got a little bit of blue in it. And also a dark, like navy blue kind of color that I'm going to look for. So I'm going to decide which of these is darker. This one's definitely darker. So I'm going to blend in some blue so that you can kind of see that this is my color plan. This color will switch between these two. This one, so my yellow green, my green, and my blue green kind of grouping. The yellow green is the lightest of the colors. So remember my little X, this was my bright side. So I'm going to start here with my yellow green. Now these colored pencils I'm noticing aren't quite as vibrant as the ones we used in class the other day. So I'm going to have to work a little bit harder to get some extra color on the sheet. But as I move to the shadowed side, so you're going to see, I'm going to have this be the yellow green. As I move around, I'm going to add more green. And if I don't think that that's dark enough, I can go ahead and add more green over the top. So you can see that I can kind of make that a little bit darker by just adding more green over the top. I could do it the other way around too, so I'm going to try it that way, see what the different effect is going to be. I'll put some of my green down first, and then I'm going to put the yellow-green on top. And that's actually a nicer color combination, so you might have to work on that a little bit. And then this is my shadowed side, so I'm going to, I could add some black in here too. I'm going to have that be the shadowy kind of green sort of color. Add some blue in there. And then this shape would be over that shape. So this would have a shadow that would fall on the side of this. So you can see I kind of added that shadow in. And I'm just going to work my way around all of my shapes using this exact same philosophy. Maybe I decide I want to brighten this up a little bit and I find a different green or a different yellow. I say, gosh, that's just not yellow enough for me yet. Or I can add white back over the top to see if I can brighten that one back up. There we go. A little bit of white. But this is how I'm going to work. I'm going to use my colors that I'm going to use in my building project to try to make a 3D illusion on my shapes. So they should feel like they're floating over the top of each other as much as possible, that they're three-dimensional. I can put shadows behind in the zone that's behind them. Shapes that are closer to the front or the top of the pile are going to be brighter. These shapes that are farther down are going to be more of the blue-greens. And that is just how I'm going to make this work out for this practice. You can also use some of the colors, you can augment with some of the colors that are in the little bins that we used the other day. The bins that have just the complementary or the primary colors in, that works as well. So you can see, continuing to work on these to try make that three-dimensional effect. So I have a couple of examples on the board that you can look at if you're stuck, but otherwise this is what you need to work on. Remembering that you're going to be using the colors that you're using for your project on this practice.